6 minutes. All right, so just to be a little anticlimactic, the surprise is it's all true. I graduated from college the first time. Surprise! And I got out with a French major, just a French major, no education, nothing else. And not knowing what to do next, I decided to get a job to make fast money because I was trying to move back to France. And I decided I was going to try selling frozen meat. I probably should have known when I showed up and the office was a warehouse. And when he pointed to the vehicle I'd be driving, it was an unmarked minivan with a little freezer like strapped in the back. So he was like, great, you're female, you are gonna sell the shit out of this meat. It's gonna be so awesome. But first, you have to go for 3 days and get 3 days of training. So you have to shadow these people. So this was in Central Illinois. And for anyone who knows about Central Illinois, probably not, it's a little bit like Fargo, but a little bit warmer. So the first day, I go with this guy. It lasts 10 hours. Okay, we only make money off commission. I go home. I talk to my boyfriend. I'm like, all right, I think this could work. 10 hours a long day, but it's not always like that. The second day I go out, and I'm sitting in a parking lot with this man who has these huge glasses. And he goes to get gas, puts the car in park, pops in, gets a huge gulp and a bear claw, comes back, throws one at me. And he's like, I'm diabetic. And I work because I don't have insurance and I have to do eye surgery. And he pulls out this wad of photos of his dog. But there's like 50 of them. And they're blurry. So you can kind of tell it's a dog, but not really. And then he's like, you know, those damn kids killed that dog and threw it in the lake because they know I'd find it. And I was like, well, how'd they kill it? And they're like, they shot it. And I was like, well, how do you know? He's like, they shot it. And then he tells me we're all going to die because he read this article in Time that we're all dying. Okay, not news. And then he's like, let's go. All right. So we drive out. We're going around for about 5 hours, and nobody's buying meat from this man because, as you can imagine, he kind of gives off this air of being a little pathetic. So he keeps trying, everybody's saying no. We finally pull up to this house. It's about 3 p.m. We've been driving around since 7. And I stay in the van. He's like, don't worry, I'll go up to this house. So he walks up to this door, and a German Shepherd pounces out the door and attacks him. And I'm freaking out in the side of the car, and I start to open the door being like, oh my God, are you okay? And then I shut the door and I roll the window. Are you okay? His hands are up, the dog's jumping, I'm just like, oh my God. And then this woman comes out and is like, holy shit, and grabs a hold of the dog and pulls the dog back in. And he's standing there stunned. And I'm still in the car with the window down, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I think I'm okay, but I'm bleeding. And so I get out and go up, and this guy barges out the door, is pissed off, and he's like, what are you doing here? Didn't you see the sign? And then he points to the sign at the end of the driveway that's like right here. Okay. And our window is like up here. And we're like, no, we didn't see the sign. But if you have a sign that says beware dog, you should probably lock your door too, maybe. Just saying. You know, mailmen, they come around every day. It's no news. So the man barges back inside. The woman comes out, and she's like, well, what did you want? And he starts doing the meat spiel. I'm here to sell you frozen meat. Oh, well, we don't really want any. We don't need that. Well, you know, I could call. Dogs that bite don't make it far. And inside, I'm like, ooh, pathetic and nasty. So she doesn't buy the whole kit, but she does buy one filet mignon to the very chagrin of her husband. And then we leave. Okay, day 2, I'm like, I don't really know about this, honey. I don't know if I can do this job. I want to go back to France, but I don't know if this is worth it. So the 3rd day, they set me up with the woman, because 2 women selling frozen meat, badass. What more could you want? I mean, put on some bikinis, it's over. So I go out with her, and she starts telling me she just moved here from Florida. Her ex-husband tried to kill her. She's a stripper, got out of the business, opened a stripper fashions. It was doing great, but, you know, when someone's chasing after your life, you kind of got to move. So she moved to Illinois. And she started selling frozen meat and was excited about this. And I don't know if anyone heard about Oprah's many project. She has this project where she bought a bunch of army barracks and then would allow families who wanted to adopt children out of the adoption agency that had been in foster care for too long. They would get money for one parent, they could adopt a bunch of kids and have one parent home and the other would work. Well, she was like, let's go sell meat there. If it's famous, we should obviously go do that, right? So we drive half an hour away, we pull up. The first door she knocks on, two women, I mean, who's not gonna open the door, right? So this couple just moved there from Tennessee. We're like, yeah, come on in. She sits down, starts doing her spiel, and they're like, you want a drink? And she's like, yeah, I'll take a Coors. It's noon on like a Tuesday. And I was like, I'll have a Coke, that's fine. And she starts telling them, yeah, my father's a minister, and this young girl's in my life, and it's the way it should be, and I'm showing her the way of the world. Okay, I was like 24, right? I'm not that new to the world. So she starts talking to him, has a second beer. The woman's doing the math. And she sees this really nice bottle of whiskey on the table, and she's like, that's some good whiskey. He's like, I'd offer you some, but it's 40 years old, I'm saving it for a celebration tonight. She's like, that's okay. My favorite is that, it's got that weird name, Jägermeister, right? He tips back in his chair and opens the freezer and pulls out the Jägermeister, puts it on the table. It's like 12:30 by now, right? He's like, you want a shot? Yeah, I'll take a shot. Between her Coors and the shot, she sells the meat. And she's like, well, thank you so much. Gives them hugs, because we're the hugging type, right? Because we're women. So people are going to adopt kids. Grabs the beer and walks out to the van. And I'm like, this is new. I mean, I just got out of college, but like, come on, that's still a little new. So grabs the beer, walks out to the van, gets in the driver's seat. And I'm like, trying to be cool. I'm like, I'll drive. I'm not drunk. Oh, I'm not saying you're drunk, but I'll drive. No. So she gets in, beer and lap, is driving. I get in the passenger seat, and I'm like, God, I don't know if I'm really just willing to like sacrifice this much to make money. And we drive, and she sees this really fancy, like, those cat carpet blankie things from the 80s, right? Yeah, you've seen those? They're selling them in a parking lot. So she pulls over and haggles with the guy. I don't want to pay $40, I'll pay $20. No, it's $40. Screw you, I'll come back at 3 when you're trying to sell stuff. Pivots and is like, hey, we've got a whole surplus of frozen meat in the back of our van. A customer didn't want it, you want it? This young girl is like, no, I don't need it, but my mom does. Here's her address. So, of course, we go to her mom's house. Now, I know I'm over 6 minutes, so I hope I'm making up for the fact that there's not 10 people. Right, yeah. So, we go to her mom's house, right? We're driving in the van. We pass it because she's too busy taking a sip, right? So we pass the house, and she puts it in reverse and backs up. And we hit a car. But luckily for us, that car drives away. So I'm just like, we hit a car. And she's like, no, we didn't. I'm like, we totally hit that car. She's like, well, they drove away. And I'm like, I don't know what they have in their glove compartment, but maybe it's worse than what you have in your lap. I don't know. She's like, whatever, it's fine. So we pull up in the driveway, we go in the house. There's like, the dirty baby in the diaper, and then the teenager that comes out, and then there's the mom, and there's just piles of trash and like pizza crusts. Swipes off the coffee table. Yeah, come on in. Tell us about the meat. She lays it out, stands in front of them. The couch is here. This really big bay window is here. And she stands here facing them. Blah, this meat, it's awesome. You grill it, it's lovely. Blah. And then I'm here just watching the street being like, am I in the Twilight Zone? What is going on? And I see a cop car drive by. Whoa, yeah, that's in the way. Drive by. And then back up. And then pull in the driveway. And then I watch him as he slowly gets out, looks at the van, and then walks up to the door. And I'm like, do I say something? I mean, the logical thing, he's just gonna come to the door. But should I warn anybody? And I'm just in shock, and so the door knocks, and she goes to open the door. And the cop's like, is this your van? And she's like, yes, it is. And he's like, well, you know, the registration plates are expired, and you hit a car. She's like, but they drove away. He's like, I need to see your license and registration. So we go out to the van, and I shove the beer bottles under the seat because I'm a great codependent, and that's just the way I roll. Classy move, I know. So she looks at me, she's like, hey, Heather. And I was like, what? She's like, you know what? I actually don't have my license. She's like, tell me you were driving. This is my 3rd day in the job. No. You have to. No. And so me and her are sitting here being like, no, yes, no, yes. And the cop's just like, what the fuck? He's like, you're a woman, shut up. If you don't want to get taken down to prison, you're going to fucking, cussing up in the block because he's seen all the fancy cop movies and that's how they act. And so finally there's this moment of reckoning where he's like, who's driving? And we're both staring at each other like this stare down. And then she just slowly points at me. And I'm just stunned, surprised. Because come on, that's what we're talking about, right? So I walked down the cop car and he's getting my information. And she's sitting there being like, oh, it's not her fault. She's under my tutelage. Why can't you just, blame it on me? And I was like, you don't know how this world works, obviously. And he starts yelling at me when she's trying to convince him. And finally I'm like, shut the fuck up. Just shut up. You're making it worse. He leaves. And she's like, all right, well, we should go back in the house. And I was like, you're going to go back in the house. I'm going to stay here, and you're going to drive me back when we're done. She's like, honey, I'm sorry. He was such a meanie. And I was like, you are the problem. You're the problem. And she's just like, oh, you're just upset. It'll be fine. So she goes and she sells the meat. I mean, come on. Who doesn't want that kind of drama in their life? And then on the way home, she's trying to just be like sympathizing with me and all the suffering because of this police officer. And I get home and I call the guy and I'm like, you know what, sir? I have to quit. I don't know if she told you what happened. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. We totally took care of the cop thing. Are you sure you want to quit? You could totally stay on. You did great. And I was like, no, I need to quit. And he's like, well, if you ever need a job, please don't hesitate to call me. Thank you.